Temptation. It's a really big word for something that entices us or allures us. Almost anything can be a temptation. Chocolate cake, coffee, money, a nice car, a bigger house, a pretty woman, a handsome man. Almost anything can entice or allure us, and this is slightly different for every person. What is a temptation to you may not be a temptation for me at all. I have struggled with pornography, sure, but that doesn't mean I'm tempted by strip clubs. The one I've had a real difficulty in my life overcoming, the other I've never had any desire to or temptation to visit, and I will never visit one. They're very similar, sure, but they're definitely not the same. With temptation, you need to understand two things. First, you do not control temptation. I'm sure, like me, there are times when you are going about your merry day, you haven't seen anyone or seen something that triggered a lustful thought, you're just at work or at home, and then bam, there's an image or thought that pops into your head. You weren't thinking about anything lustful at all. You may have been praying, being in church, playing with your kids, with your wife, or whatever, and yet there it is. We can, however, control some of the opportunities surrounding the temptation. If, for instance, I did go into a strip club expecting not to be tempted, that would just be stupid. I'm putting myself in a position to fail. We can also put ourselves in a position to succeed. Now, second, being tempted does not necessarily mean that you are failing. There is a pretty strong distinction between being tempted and failing, for sure. We've talked a lot about lust and how it has to do with the desire. You can be tempted but have no desire for what it is that you're being tempted by. It's not a simple black and white answer like many people would like to believe. Now, if you are starting to act on the temptation, to give in to lustful thoughts, that's very different. Now we're failing in that case. In order to understand temptation, you really have to define what failing actually is. Now, your spouse can help with this too because they can help set the boundaries around you. You have to make it realistic though. I've heard men and women both say that they're failing if they even look at any man or woman that is not their spouse. That's completely unrealistic. It's going to be impossible not to look at other men or women. Now, what they mean to say is that they never want to lust after another man or woman that isn't their spouse. This may be the right place for you to start because then you know what the line is for temptation. However, it may be in a different place too. Only you can decide what that looks like. What I would like you to do as we start learning about temptation is to think about where is my line at right now? What is temptation? What does failing actually mean? Is it something like giving in to lustful thoughts? Is it giving in to looking at pornography? Is it calling that person that you know leads to a bad situation? Or is it something else entirely? You and your spouse have to be the one that decide what failing actually is. Because once you know that, you know how you can better control the temptation.